When you think about it, Mario met and fought so many enemies during his adventures. Why would anyone have so many enemies? That cannot be healthy. Anyways, a couple of weeks ago, I listed off my top 10 most dangerous enemies, and you guys seem to really enjoy that list, so I'm back today with another list. Except this time, we'll talk about the enemies that are not really dangerous. We're going to be talking about the dumbest of all the dum-dums. Those enemies that you meet and wonder if you can even call them enemies because of how useless and harmless they actually are. You know what's not useless though? Well, clicking the subscribe button and hitting that bell. Okay, let's just jump into it. The very first enemy you encounter in the Super Mario Bros. Series is none other than the Goomba. And let's be honest, this dude ain't very smart. Goombas just move left and right and they hope to touch you at one point. If a Goomba does touch you, well, you get hurt. So there's a tiny bit of danger with those guys. The Micro Goombas, on the other hand, are absolutely worthless. These guys have appeared in a couple of Mario games and they always act the same. They move toward you, they jump on your body, and then, well, not much happens. These little dudes are meant to slow you down and prevent you from jumping high, and while this all works fine, you can just get rid of them by jumping a couple of times or by simply doing a spin jump. Very disappointing. I'm pretty sure I mentioned it a couple of times in my videos, but I really find Wet Dry World from Super Mario 64 to be boring. It's one of my least favorite levels in this game because of how weird and unfun it is. There's not a lot of enemies in this stage, but there is one that appears in it that is pretty dumb. Introducing Heave Ho, the little robot whose only goal is to get Mario to step on this little pan it's holding, and once that is done, woohoo! He flings you upwards. Wow, how threatening. As they move quite slowly, they're not very difficult to dodge, and the worst part is that they need to take a break after a while to recharge their batteries. To be honest, these guys are so dumb that I don't even consider them a threat. In fact, they're actually pretty useful to reach the higher parts of Wet Dry World when the water level is too low. So they're actually helpful? Cringe! I mentioned in a previous video that spikes are actually pretty deadly enemies, being able to create and spit big spiky boulders and big spiky bars and throw them at Mario. That was all true, but there is a subspecies of spikes that isn't actually dangerous at all. Appearing in one single level in the new Super Mario Bros. Series, the snow spikes are able to create, spit, and throw snowballs instead of deadly spikes. And let's be honest, if you have the choice of putting an enemy that can throw deadly spikes and an enemy that throws snowballs, well, the snowball throwing one is pretty dumb. In fact, it is so dumb that the snowballs that Spike throw can actually hurt other enemies. This dude's a traitor! These guys also appeared in Super Mario Maker 2, but they're still as dumb there as they were in the Nintendo DS game. Hitting question mark blocks is super important in the Super Mario franchise. Not only can you get some yucky coins to eventually get some extra Marios, but these blocks also contain all of the cool power-ups you can use to defeat enemies. Well, what if I told you that there is an enemy that actually disguises himself as a question mark block? You see all of those question mark blocks on screen right now. They have this little animation, but there's one that hasn't? Well, this is because this dude here is actually a Blocks Hopper. These enemies are not very threatening as they cannot even move whenever they want. In fact, if you approach one of them, it will just start shaking in fear because it's the one that feels threatened by you. The only way the Blocks Hopper can hurt you is by jumping on your head. But since they can only jump when there's a ah in the background music, well, it's actually super easy to avoid their weak attack. That's pretty dumb. There's a bunch of very scary enemies that live underwater in the Mario universe, and even the less scary enemies like bloopers are actually a real pain in the butt to dodge, but I did manage to find one very dumb enemy that lives down there with his smarter friends. Introducing the Eep Cheep, this yellow version of the Cheep Cheep. How is the Eep Cheep dumber than the Cheep Cheep, you might be asking yourself? Well, here's how the Eep Cheep works. It swims slowly towards you, and then when it realizes that you're there, it will move up and down to avoid you. An enemy that actually wants to avoid interacting with you? Now this is what I call a dumb enemy. In fact, can we even call the Eep Cheeps enemies? I just feel like they're pacifist fishes that just want nothing to do with you and they just want to move along, and that is kind of funny. There's a ton of fun enemies in Super Mario Galaxy, but there's also a couple of very dumb ones. For this list, I have studied a couple ones and decided to go with one that is actually a total joke for me, and I named the Slurple. The way this guy works is that it waits for Mario to move close to it, and then it jumps on Mario's body. Kinda like the Micro Goombas. Once a Slurple clings onto you, the camera will zoom in to help you see the problem. How do you get rid of this crazy, scary, life-threatening problem? Well, you shake the Wiimote. That's it. You shake them off and you'll make them explode and you'll be safe. Yay! Technically, these guys can hurt you if you just stand there and wait for them to suck the life out of you, but you'd have to be a total dum-dum to get killed by a Slurple. You're not a total dum-dum, aren't you? Remember the Blux Hopper that I talked about earlier in the video? Well, what if I told you that there is another dumb fake block enemy? The reason why this next enemy is even higher on the list is because it hides inside of a normal brick block. You know, those blocks you rarely hit for fun. Hear me out, those big question mark blocks are meant to be hit as they might contain a power-up. But the normal bricks, on the other hand, they rarely contain anything useful, so breaking them is not your top priority. That is probably why I didn't even remember that the fake block was a type of enemy in Super Mario 3D Land. Yeah, I'm serious. Look at this block. It's an enemy that wants you dead. It will only attack you once you get very close to it, so you can totally ignore those enemies for the entire game. How do you defeat it, you might be asking? Well, you break it, just like you would a normal block. Wow, very dumb. You know, an enemy is dumb when its only use is to allow you to beat a level. Let me explain myself. Super Mario 3D World has a level called Ant Trooper Hill, and in this stage, there's a bunch of spikes that can kill Mario and his friends instantly. Of course, for some reason, Bowser decided to hire a new type of enemy called the Ant Troopers. Well, those ants basically just move around platforms and on top of those deadly spikes, and you can just jump on the Ant Trooper in order to ride them to safety. Think of the Ant Trooper as a slower, less prettier version of Yoshi. You just use that enemy to beat the obstacle, and then you leave him be and you keep playing the game. This is a pretty dumb enemy in my opinion. You know, while we're on the topic of dumb enemies that are actually only there to help us out, there's one that comes to my mind when I think about the Super Mario Galaxy series. Remember that Beyblade-looking enemy you had to defeat by doing a spin attack and throw it into the electric fence? Well, these guys were Tupmen, and they were kinda dumb, eh? The thing is, it was way smarter than its green brother, the Spring Tupmen. These dudes are completely harmless, as they can't really hurt you if they touch you, and if you touch them on the other hand, well then a spring appears on top of their head, and you can use that spring to bounce to wherever you want. Come to think of it, this dude is just an improved version of the Heave-Ho enemy from Super Mario 64! How dumb. Almost every single Mario game has one or more levels that take place in the sky on top of clouds. This is always pretty cool, but hear me out, an enemy that is actually just a cloud. That would be pretty dumb, right? Well, here's my friend Foo, a cloud-like enemy with a big mouth that can actually spit clouds out of it. Are these clouds preventing you from breathing? Are they freezing you to death? No, they don't do anything. These clouds are actually meant to block your view and make platforming a little bit more difficult. But the thing is, they don't. If the blooper ink from Mario Kart doesn't actually make my life any more difficult, do you really think that will do the trick? The dumbest thing about the Foo is that even if you're having a bit of trouble seeing with all of these clouds, well, just shake the Wiimote and the spin jump will get rid of all of them. Pfft, what a joke, dude. This enemy truly is the dumbest of them all. Thanks a lot for watching this video, I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, well, smash like and subscribe if you want more. Tap the cards on screen right now to watch my other videos, and I will see you in the next one. Bye bye!